Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing a Game of Thrones video for today. I wanted to do this one since we have approximately 1 month to the start of probably the biggest series that's going to be released this summer, Game of Thrones Season 7. This one, we're going to take a look back at Game of Thrones, going to give my thoughts on each season, episode by episode, and some of my favorite parts of the series. So very excited for the release for Game of Thrones Season 7. Going to be making a lot more videos leading up to the release date for the new season, and it should be a really incredible season. We know Season 7 is going to be a bit shorter. It's going to be 7 episodes, and then Season 8 is going to be 6, but nevertheless, I mean, this is the climax of the series. This is the big finale, so to speak, and then after that, the series will be over. So it's been one of my absolute favorite series to watch, I guess, in the past decade, or basically ever, to be honest with you, is Game of Thrones. So starting in 2011 with Season 1, I had heard about Game of Thrones after the first season aired, and I watched it before the second season had started. Just had heard crazy things about the series, you know, after that first season. Decided, you know what, there's so much buzz about the show, I gotta check it out. And it's funny when I look at the episode guide for GOT, it literally every season the views just go up and up and up. It starts at the beginning at about 2 million views an episode, and then by the time season 6 ends, it's up to 9 million views for the Winds of Winter, the last episode we've had leading into Season 7, which airs next month, of course. So Season 1, we start off with Winter is Coming. So Season 1's thoughts, after I watched the first season, really it wasn't until Baylor that I was really like, you know, I got the buzz. I got the buzz when I first had heard about the series. I knew it was going to be, you know, it was going to be good when I just heard so many people talking about it online. But it wasn't until I saw Baylor that I was like, really like, what the hell, you know? Because of course, spoiler warning, if you're not caught up for the series, this is the death of Eddard in Baylor when he's beheaded. And right up until that moment, I had not read A Song of Ice and Fire, and it wasn't spoiled for me, which was really nice, because when it's happening, it's like traumatizing to watch, and it's one of those things where, you know, we had this idea, or I had this idea anyway, since it was only the first season in, the second season hadn't even started yet, that Sean Bean was going to be the lead. If you looked at all the promo images, if you looked at, you know, even the cover for the Blu-ray DVD releases, this kind of stuff, you see him all over the place, and he's recognizable because he's been in so many movies, you know, even like Lord of the Rings and things like that. So you think like he's a perfect lead for this series, and you get an idea that he'll probably be there all the way through. So the first season sets us up with an incredible environment, I want to say, for the show. We get to see kind of north of the wall with Winter is Coming. We get to meet the Starks, and we get to meet the Lannisters and everything that's going on with them. We get to see the part with Bran being pushed out the window by Jaime, and we get kind of the start of this. And it starts off, you know, in the beginning, it kind of seems like the Lannisters are the bad guys and the Starks are the good guys. And even Tyrion, kind of at the beginning, I kind of felt like Tyrion was, you know, kind of a scoundrel or a bad little dude, right? He had this idea. But as time goes on, you know, it's kind of like the characters that survive the longest in Game of Thrones are the ones that you least expect. So the ones that survive up until Season 7 are the ones that you, in the beginning, would have thought, no way they're going to make it all the way through. If you look at Episode 4 of Season 1, Cripples, Bastards, and Broken Things, really remember that one for kind of Tyrion and Jon, and kind of the first piece of dialogue they have and everything. Some pretty fun stuff. And, you know, you have basically Tyrion, who is kind of captured, you know, in the first season by Catelyn Stark, and it kind of seems like he might not even make it through the first season. It seems like he might be killed off. Jon Snow kind of seems like a bastard, so he kind of seems like a character where he could be killed off at any time, and he's probably not going to survive long term. And the characters that you think kind of are the ones that are probably safe are the ones that all get killed off, which is really crazy. So heavy concentration in the first season on the Lannisters, of course. course, and the Stark. So that's kind of like where the story starts off. We got Daenerys, and we have the others that are in there too, but I remember from the first season like that being the biggest thing, and Baylor just being this insane episode. And by the end of the season, I was sitting there thinking, like, what am I watching? This is insane, right? It's so cool. But you got some really great kind of legendary sword battles, I want to say, in that season. If you have like Eddard versus Jaime, if you guys remember that one, that was like, oh my god, that was so exciting. One of the most exciting fight sequences I've ever seen in really any series. So to finish off the first season, really did like the first season and was just really perplexed by the show and just not sure where they were going with it. It was just such an intriguing new series where I never really seen anything like it before, I would say, as a TV series. You have kind of a medieval fantasy type series where you have characters being killed off that you would never think would be. You have some incredible sword fights where it's not like Lord of the Rings where the good guys always win or you always have them somehow get away. You have, Eddard being like stabbed, through the back of the leg with a spear, for example, or beheaded by Joffrey. You just have some really crazy things that really set Game of Thrones apart right away in the first season from any other series I think I've ever seen. So I was really intrigued going into season 2 of the series and thought, at the beginning here and that we were going to see a story of vengeance, of revenge for the Starks, and that, we had the huge death in the first season, but was pretty certain the direction that George R.R. Martin was going, or, Game of Thrones HBO was going with this one, was that we were going to see the Stark family get vengeance on Joffrey for the death of Eddard, and that was the kind of story that we were seeing. So in these couple seasons here, we have a pretty big concentration on Robb and Catelyn and kind of them getting their whole side together, and then you also have Stannis, and you have some other developments from what happened in the season 1 finale with the death of Robb and everything, and Eddard as well too. So you have Stannis coming in, you have Renly, and you have the stuff that goes on with them. They bring in Melisandre, and you just get kind of, with season 2, kind of a more full world. You start getting some more kind of points of view coming in here. Of course, you got the stuff with the wall that's happening too, and we finish off this season with Blackwater, which was really incredible because we never really seen anything like that before either. We have this, really huge battle, and it was really interesting the way you have certain characters on certain sides that it's not black and white. Like you have Tyrion, who's kind of on the side of the Lannisters in this one and kind of the bad guys, and he's kind of got his plot and his idea. So it's kind of like I'm rooting for him, but at the same time, it's not that simple because I hate Joffrey, and the Hound is in there too, and there's just, oh my god, it's really diverse, the way the story is told, to where you don't simply have, black and white characters where you have a group of good guys, you have a group of bad guys. You have kind of, those mixed in, and you can have, like, for example, at this point, Tyrion and Robb are pretty much my favorite characters, but Tyrion now has become, I'd say, my overall Game of Thrones favorite character. At certain times, he's definitely not on the right side. He's doing what's best for his family, I suppose, at this time, because they haven't screwed him over that badly yet. But of course, he doesn't like Joffrey either. I remember like parts where he's like, smacking Joffrey. It's funny. So good stuff. So season 2 ends off with kind of having a false sense of security that the Starks are going to get revenge and it's going to be okay, and maybe Stannis will get it. Okay, it's not Stannis, but I'm pretty sure going into season 3 it's going to be it's going to be Robb who's going to get it. So we continue on. You've got kind of the battles that keep going. You've got Tywin and the others and the stuff that's been happening. We finish off the 3rd season with the reigns of Castamere. Of course, I'm recapping kind of the main things that I took from it here. Obviously, there's tons of story in each of these seasons, and the episodes are long. There's just so much stuff happening in different locations and everything. But for me, kind of these are some of the highlights that I took from it. So, and in the background, of course, we have the stuff with Daenerys kind of coming through as all of this is going on. Season 3 is probably my most surprising season ever, with the reigns of Castamere. Now, when we saw this episode, this was really crazy because up until here, I mean, to me, I was pretty sure that the story was going to go the way where Robb would find a way to win and the good guys would win, so to speak, right? And Catelyn would be fine and everybody would be fine, and that's how things would go. this season, especially at the end, I got depressed after watching this. I mean, I was so confused and just like what is going on here? And I wasn't even sure if I want to watch the show anymore because Robb at that time was my favorite character and Catelyn was one of them. And I kind of really wanted to see them get their revenge on Joffrey in such a way where it would feel justified feel like justice for Eddard and what happened with him earlier. And it just doesn't happen here. You know, it's like a double twist. He twists one way and then he twists another way. And it's like, wow, it's such an incredible kind of, just so different from anything else I had seen before. And you would think it wouldn't work. Like, you'd think a story like this would never work. You have kind of your lead that everybody loves gets killed off in the first season. And then you have his son and surviving family members, you know, Catelyn, for example, and you have Talisa in there. And they get killed as well, too, in this season. So really crazy stuff with the third season. Would say that at times I hated this season. I hated the way it ended and everything. I hated the stuff with the Freys. I hated Walder Frey. You know, Game of Thrones is some of the best villains ever because of the fact that the good guys don't always win each part of the battle, and it's definitive. You have some of them being absolutely, you know, massacred, and really crazy stuff. So season 3, you know, I did like the season, but definitely the ending, I just wasn't sure. And I was like, wow, this is such a crazy series. It's kind of unreal. It's kind of amazing. Then we go into season 4. So going after season 3, I remember feeling with this one that, you know, I just wasn't sure about the series anymore. I was going to watch it, but I just, you know, I wasn't sure if I was going to stay in it because I felt like my side, which was the Starks, was my favorite house, was basically annihilated at this point. You have some surviving members. You have Jon, but he's kind of like, well, he's Snow at that time. You have Arya and you have Sansa. But I wasn't sure because I was like, you know, all of my favorite characters have been basically killed, except for Tyrion and some of the others that are. But my favorite house had been annihilated at this point where they were no longer a threat to anybody, really. At least not on a wide scale, you know, assassin and stuff, Arya, yeah, but in terms of like wide scale, not at all. So season 4 comes in, and I just really was not sure what to think of this season. But man, this one was really exciting as well too, and it kind of shocked me that you had a character like Oberyn who comes in that quickly becomes one of my new favorites in the show in season 4. You have the episode The Mountain and the Viper, which is one of the most hyped episodes ever. Just to get to see that fight was just amazing, incredible. The stuff with Tywin and Tyrion. We finish off with the children, so you had Tyrion on trial there. Very exciting stuff, the laws of gods and men. Just some really incredible stuff in the 4th season. We had the Lion and the Rose. Finally, we get some kind of vengeance. It's not the kind that we would have expected to see, I suppose, with Joffrey. But it felt good anyway. It felt justified anyway for fans of the Starks, and that was really cool. So season 4 was a really loaded season, I want to say, and I think one of the better seasons of the show for me as a viewer. Really loved this season, and this one here is kind of where Tyrion became, I guess, my favorite by the end, because you have Tyrion who sort of gets vengeance for the Starks in a lot of ways by, you know, killing Tywin in the end and Shay as well too, and then kind of getting away with it and getting out of there, so to speak. You also have some crazy stuff with the Wall, with the Watchers on the Wall. You have the storyline with Jon and Ygritte and the others and the things that are happening there, which was really exciting. You know, some of the battle sequences there and all that was really crazy, and really just felt like season 4 was such a solid season, and was really surprised by it because before then I had really liked seeing the Starks, and now they're basically out of the picture except for Sansa and Arya. But then you have all this other stuff that's going on, and just really very captivating for me as a viewer. So up until that point, season 4 was my favorite. I really loved that season. Going into season 5, so following up after the stuff with Tyrion, we get kind of a new shift in the story. You have kind of more concentration on Daenerys because you have kind of her arrival starting to get closer, looming, so to speak, and you got the stuff with her and Meereen and all these things happening here. Sons of the Harpy. We got the High Sparrow. We got some trouble for Cersei starting up there with the High Sparrow and that. Kill the Boy, the Gift, Hardhome. Very exciting episode, and this is really, for me, I think the last couple seasons is where the Wall starts to get really exciting, because earlier on in the series I didn't like the Wall that much. I thought it was okay, but around now is when it gets really, really exciting. The Wars to Come, Unbent, Unbound, Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken, The Gift, and Hardhome. So some really exciting stuff there. Mother's Mercy, The Dance of Dragons, And, we got the stuff with Stannis as well, too, kind of, some really good stuff with Mance and the Wall and that. So really exciting stuff there as well, too. So that's one thing about Game of Thrones is that as each season goes by, it really shifts a lot around in terms of like the concentrations in the world, and my interest as well too really shifts around a lot to where this season, always liked Tyrion, but his role in this season, season 5, wasn't like it was in season 4. It shifts a lot over to different spots in that, and it's very, very exciting. You have villains like Ramsay and of course Roose has been there before, but Ramsay and Roose kind of becoming bigger after the last couple of seasons, and at this point really kind of getting up there with Stannis and everything that's happening. So very good season is season 5. Probably my maybe third favorite so far. Season 4 being my second favorite, and then my absolute favorite has to be our last season, season 6. Specifically because of how it ended off with Battle of the Bastards and the Winds of Winter. I'd say the Battle of the Bastards is my favorite episode of any series ever. I was very impressed with that episode. I think it's the best done episode ever. For people who love to see kind of sword battles and battle sequences play out, and just good versus evil, because you have Ramsay, who's set up at this point as one of the best villains ever. I mean, it's pretty much impossible to like him unless you're a psychopath. Aside from that, you're gonna hate Ramsay, the stuff he's done to Theon and everything. The setup with Jon Snow and Jon Snow kind of being killed, being resurrected. Really just insane stuff with Battle of the Bastards being, I would say, the highlight of the series for me, and I'll be surprised if they surpass that. You have Cersei, who's kind of in the Winds of Winter here, becoming kind of a bigger villain, I guess, than Ramsay. But personally, as far as like one battle goes, Battle of the Bastards is really just, oh man, incredible. And aside from Battle of the Bastards, I mean, the rest of the season is really solid as well, too. Of course, the Winds of Winter is kind of even more crazy because you have like more major character deaths, I want to say, in that episode than almost any as far as like the last couple seasons have gone. And even characters dating back to the beginning that are killed off in the finale for Season 6, The Winds of Winter. So what a crazy ending to Season 6. Absolutely my favorite season of the series so far. We'll see if Season 7 and Season 8 are able to top it. And you have even some stuff at the beginning here with the Red Woman, with Melisandre, the stuff that's going on with Jon Snow, and kind of the setup for this battle that takes place later with Ramsay, Sansa, and everything. Hodor's last episode, that was kind of a crazy episode as well, too, with that death, and just kind of really surprising the way that the time sync kind of goes back with the hold the door thing and his name being Hodor. It was really crazy, man. That was really, because you never would think of that coming beforehand, and pretty much nobody did. I never saw a comment of somebody saying like Hodor's name means this or something, or came from this. Never happened. I never saw that before. So, really great stuff. Oathbreaker was cool too. You had kind of the hanging of some of the betrayers there at the Night's Watch, and kind of Jon's, Oathbreaker, oath being, finished because it's to death, and he was dead. So really, really crazy stuff. So finish this off with where we're at right now, getting ready for Season 6, with it being, one of the most hyped, finishes to a series ever. It's kind of like one of those where whatever you predict, you think is going to happen when it ends. And I've done my predictions during the channel for what I think is going to happen in Season 7 and Season 8 with Cersei, Daenerys, Jon, and of course the Night King, the White Walkers finally arriving, and kind of the final battles coming up here for the series. But I think, just to recap the first 6 seasons, Game of Thrones is such an incredible series. It's a series that kind of makes you question what's good or bad in a show for viewership, and killing off certain characters being safe, them kind of the way the story molds, the way you don't really have like one central lead or even a few. You have so many different characters that at parts you think are it and they're not, and it's just like, wow, it's just so surprising. And then in the end, kind of your least likely, or at least so far, your least likely survivors being the ones that are still around to this very day. Even in terms of a villain, with Cersei being a villain that I didn't even think she was going to be, surviving that long. I didn't think she would out-survive some of her, family members like Tywin and some of the others as well too. So, Game of Thrones is an incredible series. I'm really going to miss it when it ends in a couple years, but I would say this is one of the most rewatchable series ever, because at different parts, at different seasons, you have such different concentrations. You can even have different environments. You can have one that looks like Antarctica, then you can have another that looks like a desert or something, like Arizona or the Sahara or something. So what an incredible series, man. Like I said, favorite season 6. Then I'll go with 4, then 5. Some really incredible battles throughout. And, even dating back to the first season, really just an intense series, a series where whatever you think going in is going to happen, you're probably going to be wrong. You can pretty much never figure it out. And also, at times, when I was like, oh, I might quit watching this show because of what just happened, they're able to kind of raise up some of those other characters that maybe I didn't like as much before, kind of become even better after certain ones are gone. Then you find others that are kind of your favorites. So what a diverse world, what a diverse series, and definitely one of my favorites ever. Absolutely, I can't wait to see how the last 2 seasons end off for the show. So there's kind of a brief recap. Of course, I've done reviews of pretty much every episode of the series dating back to the first season. If you guys want to watch them, they're all in the channel. One of your favorite episodes or whatever, there's a review in there from me. So you can use the search tool in the channel to look up any of them you want. Just type in Game of Thrones, you'll find them all. There's tons of them. And of course, those are a lot more in detail than this more general recap. But those are kind of some of my favorite parts from the show. Getting ready for season 7. You guys can write yours below. What are some of your favorite parts? What's your favorite season? That's one to write a comment for. And, what are some of your favorite episodes? What's like the best episode for you? For me, it's Battle of the Bastards and then Winds of Winter and some of the others. But yeah, write yours below, guys. What do you think, and maybe for you, what are some of the most surprising deaths throughout the series and your favorite parts of the series? Because there's just so much diversity in Game of Thrones and so much to love. So many different characters from so many different locations and environments and that. So that's it for my kind of recap of the series. One of my favorite series ever for sure. One of the best series ever. Like, I think you could make a point. You could argue that Game of Thrones is the best series ever made, and I think that it'd be difficult. There's some others that people bring up, Sopranos, The Wire. A lot of them are HBO, some of the best series ever. But yeah, you guys can write your comments below as well too on whether or not Game of Thrones is your favorite ever, whether or not you think it's the best ever. It's certainly one of the best ever for me that I've ever seen, and certainly one of my favorites for sure as well. If you guys like this video, please don't forget to thumb it up below. You can also share and favorite, and if you're new and you want to subscribe to the channel, appreciate all you guys subscribing. Let's get hyped. Really excited now. Only 1 month left to the start for Game of Thrones Season 7. Ah, man, I can't wait. That's it for this video, guys. We'll see you again soon for another. As always, it's Trev, and I'm saying peace. Later, guys. See you soon.